This week on MS Refresh, this is the August episode of our Microsoft Roadmap Recap, plus Stream. Are we there yet? And some Microsoft podcast resources you might want to know about. All that and more. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 68 for the work week of August 8th, 2022. Coming to you from the East Coast, my name is Matt Wade.
And as always from the West Coast, I'm Sean Bugler. Matt Wade, how are you?
Sean, what's up, man?
Oh, I'm so close to being done with school. I was just telling you before we went live that I stayed up all night and I finished my last school paper. And I am just awaiting anxiously the final grades so that I can confidently say whether I'm going to graduate or no. Whether I'm going to whether I'm going to finish with what's the big one? Summa cum laude.
Ooh, summa cum laude, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. Clearly, I didn't pay that much attention.
I think I was only cum laude. I don't know. When I feel like when you go back to school. Like, who cares about your GPA as long as you know, right? Like, the doctor with the lowest grade is still a doctor, right? Like, you already got a good job, you already got a good reputation. You just want to, have that piece of paper.
Yeah, this is for me.
Feel good.
Absolutely, no, 100%. So I'm looking forward to celebrating that. What's new in your world?
Well, apologies about last week. So I was asked to officiate a wedding for the first time in my life.
Cool. How'd you do?
It seemed to go reasonably well.
It seemed to really. We're still waiting on the survey responses.
Right, exactly. I made sure that the ceremony script was written and pre-approved by the bride, and the groom was one of my best friends from childhood. And I got, it seemed to go okay. Got some laughs. It was meant to be informal. It was a great weekend. But it was a great weekend. And the wedding took place on Sunday, about 2 hours from where I live. So Monday was a bit of a day.
1 + 1 = 2. I hear you.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
It's harder and harder to have fun. The older and older I get, the more the more I understand the people who are just angry at fun, the concept of, because they're just like, I can't enjoy that anymore.
Right. They're spiteful of the whole concept because they're not allowed to use it anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I know we've got a kind of a bunch to cover today. We're going to be covering the all the news on the August or the roadmap front from August. Not Microsoft Teams. We'll see if we can slip in a Microsoft Teams episode this month because that was technically supposed to be this week. But we wanted to make sure that we got the big picture overall roadmap stuff included. So it's probably worth it for us to get that kicked off, huh?
Let's do it.
This is the news.
Hello there. Here's everything we're expecting to arrive or begin to arrive in August, according to the M365 roadmap, plus a couple of neat things we found along the way. Starting with forms. That one. By the end of this month, you'll be able to set a time limit on a quiz in Microsoft Forms to really make your students squirm. And rolling out now, you'll be able to take existing surveys and quizzes in Word and PDF format and convert them automatically to a Forms survey. Definitely looking forward to seeing what that looks like in production. Not to be left out, we don't talk about Edge enough, but Edge is out there doing its thing, getting bigger and bigger by the day. Edge is getting Office and Outlook integrations in its sidebar, including the ability to access Docs and Office apps as well as Mail and Calendar. Both features need to be enabled by an administrator, which is going to be interesting through the lens of those who just choose to use Microsoft Edge versus organizations that use, Firefox or Chrome or what have you. But we'll see what that looks like. The fabled Stream web app finally arrives this month with both the portal for viewing and publishing videos and audio, plus the new player experience that includes the new media titles, descriptions, automatic captions, customized thumbnails, and more. And just added to the roadmap is the Stream migration tool, which will help admins migrate video and audio files from Stream Classic to the new Stream. That's supposed to be in preview this month and generally available in November. It appears there's a private preview ongoing, and you can add yourself to the waitlist using the link that we're going to apply for you in the show notes. Jumping over to one of Microsoft's many task-oriented tools, GCC, that's the Government Community Cloud Moderate, is getting the To-Do mobile app for iOS and Android. Still no word on whether the availability of To-Do is inbound for GCC High or GCC DoD, Department of Defense, which means you're still stuck with the old Outlook tasks, which they removed from the Outlook web bar in an act of utter disregard for the people who control the nuclear weapons. Not a threat. Viva Topics. Viva is getting a few updates, starting with Viva Topics here. You can soon resolve topic name similarities where you can select a topic among several when they share similar or matching names. Think Disambiguation, which was the name of my band in high school. And you can create segments of topics based on sites and information architecture. The Viva Insights app is also getting some updates in Teams, specifically a more intuitive and actionable experience for individuals, managers, and leaders. What that means, we'll find out when it gets here. You'll also be able to get recommendations to send praise to others via Viva Insights, which will only make you that like that overachiever in your group that much more. And you'll start getting invitations to enroll into plans to automatically book recurring time for learning, breaks, and message catch-ups in the daily briefing email and Insights app, which to me is one of the best parts of Viva Insights, the only part I actually care about. Microsoft Viva Goals is now generally available as of August 1st. That was pretty quick. The blog post covering what to expect is in the show notes. We encourage you to check it out. There's some interesting stuff there with respect to hitting your OKRs if you happen to be an OKR-based organization. OneDrive, I'm sorry, not OneDrive, that's Office. The Office app for GCC DoD customers is getting speech-to-text dictation features so you can draft documents, emails, and notes by voice, particularly useful if you happen to be on the go or working out on the treadmill and you want to dictate an email telling somebody to launch those nuclear weapons we talked about earlier. Now OneDrive. OneDrive is getting a couple of welcome updates. The share menu finally getting that scrub to provide easier access to sharing via email, link copying, Teams chat, and managing access, the latter of which has never been super intuitive. Now, while SharePoint and OneDrive can accept that almost all characters in the browser can go into a file name, when syncing, there's a number of Windows characters that both Windows and macOS respectively simply won't accept. OneDrive Sync will rename these files automatically, replacing those special characters with an underscore. And that's particularly notable because previously those files just outright would not sync. So this is a really nice user experience change. The My Files page on OneDrive's web experience is getting an activity column showing which of your shared documents have seen edits and comments. The OneDrive Sync app will automatically sign in if there are existing credentials available in Microsoft apps like Teams, Office, or Edge in a move that makes most of us say, wouldn't that have been a requirement to even launch this product? Silly question. And admins will get a sync report for Windows users that will check app versions, sync status, and top sync errors on individual devices to potentially proactively help those people who have issues but may not even know it. I know that my IT help desk will love that. Jumping over to OneNote. We don't talk about OneNote enough here, but for those math nerds out there like Matt, OneNote is getting the Math Inc. Recognizer service. Top-notch, top-tier branding right there, which converts handwritten ink, so handwritten digital ink, in your notes to math equations. And Math Solver will help you learn how to solve handwritten math problems. This actually is one of the biggest inroads Microsoft is making in the educational space right now. So don't sleep on it, especially if you're like me and you decided to go back to school for no reason. Outlook. Reactions to emails are supposed to be coming out finally. I know we've said that like 100 times, and trust me, we're waiting for it too. It's been in preview since last month, but allegedly is going GA, general available, this month. Now, we've covered it before, but we know now that FindTime being added as a native feature in Outlook will be called Meeting Polls. And for the Apple fans out there, a couple of specific updates for us. Outlook for Mac is getting contact lists, aka personal distribution lists. That's been a huge outlier. Outlook is getting mobile to Mac and Mac to mobile handoff, meaning that you can open up the app on your phone and you'll get a little prompt on your Mac OS device to jump from the phone to the Mac device in real time, which is pretty neat. This is a long-standing Apple feature that's been around that transfers user activities across those devices. So an example of that might be continuing to draft an email on your phone and picking it right up where you left off on your Mac. This will be available to all customers, including all government community clouds. Pretty neat. Planner. The single planner deliverable that apparently requires their entire engineering team to complete, presuming they haven't all been hired by the Microsoft Lists team at this point. We've said that before a couple of times, but recurring tasks are supposed to be here by the end of the month. So recurring tasks allegedly are still coming and will be here this month. That said, don't hold your breath. Unless I don't like you, in which case do hold your breath. Jumping over to SharePoint, there's a number of exciting things coming in the SharePoint universe here, starting with private drafts for SharePoint pages and news. This is coming this month, making it easier to collaborate on a page before publishing. Previously, if you wanted to collaborate with somebody on a page, you had to create the page, you had to publish the page, and then you had to, direct them to it behind the scenes and set contents. Now, private drafts are available and you can loop people in before things are published so that you can get your message right. 3 new SharePoint team site templates are on their way, including IT Help Desk, Crisis Communications Teams, and a new employee onboarding experience. Now, these already exist in the SharePoint lookbook. Now they'll just be a little bit easier to access in the just-in-time experience that Microsoft has implemented in SharePoint directly. So when a new SharePoint site is created, you'll be prompted with a collection of templates that you can then apply to those sites. And so we'll have 3 more to add to that. The SharePoint Admin Center will be getting more control over whether users can create sites in your tenant, though the roadmap doesn't get into detail about what. I'm hoping there's some really pleasant user experience options here for all of this admins out there. And the SharePoint app bar and start pages for GCC High and DoD will get frequent sites, recent sites, and, Matt, you're going to love this one, news, which has been broken this whole time. It's actually amazing that the SharePoint app bar and start pages were rolled out to these environments without these features because it made them almost completely useless. It likely would have been better just to not roll them out until now. But here we are. And last but not least, the final pillar for now of the Power Platform, PowerPoint. Funny. Cameo features are coming now. Should be here imminently in all clouds, including all government clouds, which will allow you to place a live camera feed directly into your presentations like this. It was added to the roadmap in late July with a delivery date of the same month. While it's been around in development for quite some time, we've seen it, and it's a pretty useful evolution of PowerPoint, particularly for live meetings. You may want to read up on how it works because it very well may change the way that you design PowerPoints into the future. We've linked the documentation in the show notes below for your reading pleasure. And that's the news.
That was the news.
That was very well done, Sean.
Thank you very much. That was a lot of news.
Yeah, it was kind of a lot, way more than last month. But good stuff. Couple repetition things, which, but
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take the over communication, particularly with Ignite having been announced now in October, which I don't know if we actually have talked about this on the show, but they've announced Microsoft Ignite is going to be hybrid. It's going to have an in-person component. It's still going to be, according to Microsoft, digital first, but with an in-person component here. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like, but particularly as we're getting so close to October, I'm actually surprised at how much stuff is launching now, because normally this close to what we know to be Ignite historically, the wells dry up.
Yeah, definitely.
Like product features stop launching, although many of these have been talked about for over a year at this point. So maybe this is just them clearing the decks before they dump a whole bunch of stuff on us that doesn't come out until this time next year.
Or they'll just, re-announce 80% of, what they already have out there and claim a win when they finally.
They should just play this video
a year ago. Yeah,
Microsoft, exactly. You can have this for free, Microsoft. It's sarcasm.
Yeah, it would cost a lot of money. But what's the topic that came up for you this week that you thought was interesting?
There were a couple of different things that popped up that I thought were interesting, but one of them that I'm really excited about is something that we didn't talk about in the news. A tweet was sent out by my friend and yours, Mark Cashman, who is he's a product manager for the Microsoft Lists team, I want to say, the last time I checked. He's, been around. He does a bunch of great things. Truly just a joy to talk to. But he sent a tweet out the other day that I thought was a direct shot at you and I.
And he's known for being just so aggressive and
so anti-Sean and Matt.
Yes, exactly.
So he tweeted about this really useful resource in the Microsoft Adoption Center. So a lot of people don't know this, and we don't talk about it here much because of their competition, but Microsoft puts out a lot of podcasts, a lot of really cool resources across the Microsoft 365 spectrum, talking about everything from adoption to roadmaps to kind of the user story part of it here. So Mark Cashman actually shared a link directly to a new part of the Microsoft 365 Adoption Center that showcases all the different podcasts and shows that are available through Microsoft about Microsoft 365. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just showcase that real quick here. So this is it right here, and we'll drop a link to this in the show notes. But it's all those podcasts and shows that we were talking about here. So we've got, let me make this a little bit bigger here for me. We've got the AI Business School, Azure for Executives, the GovPod. Now, Matt Wade, we've talked about the government community cloud quite a bit. When we saw this, as we were going over this pre-show, I would like to think that both of us were surprised pleasantly that there was a government podcast. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes. In fact, I think there's two.
Yeah, there are two. There's the GovPod right here. And then I want to say a little bit further down is Public Sector Future. Now, of course, we clicked on GovPod and opened it up here. And we found that the last time this published anything was July 12th, 2019. And that it only made it to episode 8. And unfortunately, what we found with a lot of these was that they either are no longer active podcasts or they weren't long for this world to begin with here. Another one that jumped out at us. Matt, which one was it? Was it Directors on Digital?
Yeah.
So Directors on Digital, a new podcast series brought to you by Company Director and Microsoft, featuring leading directors and their stories on driving digital transformation. You click on it. Now, before I click on it here, I just want to highlight down on the bottom left, it says the link is going to go to companydirectors.com.au/directors on digital. You click on it. It does not go there because as far as we can tell, that podcast does not exist anymore. If it does exist, apologies, but somebody should fix that link. Matt Wade, is there value in showcasing podcasts that are not active and have not posted anything in, let's say, minimum threshold, 2 years?
I mean, yeah, people still watch I Love Lucy, right? Like, so there's value to it. I would just love to see some sort of qualifier that like, this is an active podcast versus this is not an active podcast. I think the links need to be shored up as well. All that said, there are a couple topics on here where like Azure for Executives, like what executive in a company ever needs to say the word Azure? Like, I feel like they're doing it wrong if they're like that's for their tech people and they're
100%.
I don't get that, but there are some really good ones on here. I can hear
my CIO going, "Don't talk to me about this."
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's unnecessary. The detail is unnecessary. I mean, there's stories. The stories look interesting, actually. I was now kind of intrigued. But I will say there are a couple really good ones in here. So Inside Microsoft Teams is fantastic. Steven is just a really, really interesting dude and knows what he's talking about. Came from the OneDrive world, and before that he was an MVP. And then there was another one that was the Intrazone, of course.
Don't sleep on the Intrazone. Yeah. Which I'm sure was part of the inspiration for pulling this all together in the first place, and Mark Cashman tweeting it out. Could not recommend the Intrazone more highly. A couple others that we saw that were active here. Microsoft Research India is very active. So definitely worth taking a look around. And Public Sector Future, we razzed on GovPod, but Public Sector Future is actively produced. In fact, they just published an episode. They have a
great website.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
They just published their latest episode 27, The Future of Infrastructure. Be obsessed with delivering the basics. Yesterday, as we're recording this here on August 4th. So definitely check this out. I mean, Matt, we joke about it here, but we're highlighting this here, not because they're competition necessarily, but because they complement a lot of the stuff that I think we get feedback on, which is, where's the opportunities for substance and deep dives. That's where a lot of these podcasts come in. And I couldn't recommend many of these more.
Yeah. The one I'm still kind of curious about the sync up. I haven't listened to that one. I don't know how you can get a whole podcast about OneDrive.
Yeah. I mean, I would have said the same thing about like SharePoint, but
SharePoint has so much to it. OneDrive is literally a file storage tool and a sync tool. But that's not to disparage the content. They may be running wild with some amazing content I've just never listened before. But
I'm with you. I think one opportunity there, just Microsoft branding feedback in general is I think users are perpetually confused by the bifurcation between SharePoint and OneDrive. I mean, it doesn't matter how much training you do within an organization.
I totally agree.
I still get the question, what's the difference?
Yep.
And then I always, every single time without fail, lead with the wrong answer, which is, well, actually, OneDrive is technically SharePoint.
Well, it would be a lot easier if the app wasn't OneDrive, if it was like Office 365 files or something, like the syncing tool and the mobile app. That would make it a lot easier, because then it's like, oh, it's all your files in Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive, right? And that's how I split it up. But that is not the that's a discussion for a different day.
We're gonna pin it. Microsoft 365 Adoption Center. We dropped a link in the show notes to the podcast and shows section, newly added. Check it out. There's some cool stuff. And if you see any other broken links, tweet Matt and I. We'd love to know if we missed any, because there were a bunch of broken links and a bunch of dead shows, which is sad. Echoing what you said, Matt, it would be nice if they just flagged the ones that are being actively produced.
Yeah.
Was there anything that jumped out to you, Matt Wade?
Microsoft Stream. Oh my. So we're supposed to get the new web player and the new portal this month. And I know you can access the new portal from stream.office.com, but you can also start seeing potentially some of the web app experiences. Now, the Stream portal that you can see in preview does not look like the one that we're supposed to be getting, where it's basically like a creation center, right? Like, start recording a podcast now, record a video from here, that kind of thing. It's really just, it looks like OneDrive, but just filtered to videos.
Right.
But interestingly, the rollout of the new player is in various states. So in my 2 commercial tenants, I see nothing new when I play a video in OneDrive or SharePoint. And
yet we've also heard from multiple sources that there are government community tenants that do have the new experience already.
And I've seen that in at least one. So it's very interesting how this is rolling out, because like if that example, the government never, ever gets this stuff first. Ever. Right. So I'm very curious how that is. And then what you see here in your tenant is essentially what it's supposed to be. Although I think that stuff on the right is supposed to actually not be a panel. I think it's supposed to be very YouTube-like, where it would have the video take up, 60% of the screen, and comments will be at the bottom, and that kind of thing. So
we're definitely seeing the potpourri, like all the stuff is just kind of, all the features have been dumped into the bag.
It's a very disconnected rollout, but the feature sets are very nice. You want to run through kind of what these things are?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now what's available, and we highlighted some of these in the news, we have the ability to control the thumbnail, which is particularly useful if you're going to embed these in a SharePoint site.
I will say real quick on the thumbnail, when you upload the thumbnail, it will display it, and you'll think that that's the thumbnail and it's done. It's not. You have to click done. Otherwise, it doesn't save the thumbnail. And I missed that on like
confirm a thumbnail.
I missed that on like a dozen files when I was initially using this for the first time.
No feedback for the stream team there. We also have a toggle for about video, which, I mean, at a glance, I think Matt, you and I were kind of like, what does this control? It controls the title reveal. It shows the breadcrumb trail and the description, all of which, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that the description actually has rich text components, which is really nice. That's a small, dumb thing, but I'm glad to see it.
This is an example where the rollout is different for the tenant that I have it in, because the about is a button above comments on the right side.
Oh, interesting.
I have no idea why.
I wonder if they're like A/B testing.
Maybe, but like, should they be doing that?
Should they be doing that? Probably. That's a better question. There's also transcripts and captions. Now, Matt, you pointed out something particularly notable here. I've turned on transcripts and captions. Does that mean that I have transcripts and or captions now?
It does not.
It does not.
you have to either generate them, and you have to do this manually for each video, or you have to upload them.
So I've gone ahead and I've clicked generate English because that is the only option you get right now. And it is going to start generating here. I can hit refresh. This is an interesting user experience.
I know. Yeah.
Select refresh to check if it's finished.
I know. Yeah.
Sure.
It's basically turning a GIF on and just leaving it on forever.
Take note for all of you building Power Apps.
Yeah, right.
Apparently, this is a Microsoft design pattern. Yeah. We've also got the ability to toggle on chapters, which will allow you to demarcate specific areas of the video that are of interest. So I can go ahead and create a new chapter here, and I can say this is the climax of the meeting. Now, interestingly enough, there doesn't seem to be a scrub experience here. You have to physically type in the time. So if this is happening at 31 seconds in, I have to type that in. It's only a 13-second video. Okay. 9 seconds.
I hadn't noticed that though. That's a good insight.
So that's kind of interesting here. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably an evolution to this, and this is good enough. This is tier 1, but interesting nonetheless. And then of course the ability to toggle comments on or off. Something notable: comments are on by default.
Yeah,
which I'm a little worried about, Matt.
Yeah, I would rather have the captions on by default than the comments. Let's just put it that way.
That's the truth. And, I think, but it is consistent with the SharePoint experience of comments being on for every new modern page created. So
that's true. But the number of pages that people create is not nearly going to be the number of videos that somebody one-off uploads to their OneDrive, right? Like that's
the people's voices will be heard, Matt.
Yes, seriously.
And then last is noise suppression, which unconfirmed, but as of right now, we're under the impression that noise suppression will not be available at launch for the government community clouds. We're not sure why, but we do know that it's not showing up in some of the government tenants that we've seen already. But it's pretty neat, the ability to turn this on. And what this will do is this will not just enable noise suppression in these videos, it actually gives users the ability to opt in and opt out of noise suppression in the video. So if it's an entire video of me crinkling a chip bag as I talk into the microphone here, the hope is
that's what everybody does.
It's pure business. The hope is that users will be able to opt in to the noise suppression functionality, and it will diminish the background noise of me talking, so you can hear just the chips crinkling. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that is exactly what we want to.
So that's a little quick tour of the stream shell as it is today. But as you and I have talked about, and as you mentioned at the start of this, there's more to come. This doesn't nearly align with the screenshots that we've seen up to this point, which means that, you're very apropos at the very beginning of this in the stinger when you said, are we there yet?
Yep.
Are we there yet? Matt, are we there yet?
I would definitely say no. And I'll point out real quick too, that panel that you just had out with all the toggles on it, those that only shows up for somebody who has edit or owner rights to that file.
Ooh, so good call out.
If you don't have, if you have view access, you will only see all the stuff that person turns on effectively for the plan there. So here's an interesting discussion that I was having with somebody who runs video portals and was really excited about the captioning. They were concerned about auto-generated captions because you can't predict what is going to be said. And let's say you're doing a video for like an executive, but you don't have the resources to go in and like actually update because you can generate the captions, download the captions, edit the captions, and re-upload them. So basically let the AI do like 98% of the work, and then you can do a couple minor tweaks here and there. But a lot of organizations barely have the resources to even, have a video, an organized or centralized video portal anyway.
Right.
And I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are there. The concern was that like for some very large, high visibility videos, they may just not do the captions at all, which would have the largest visibility, right? Most people would watch it. And in theory, if you have, I don't even know if like, it might be one of those things where if you have the feature, ADA requires that you're meant to use it, right?
And that's exactly what I was about to say.
I'm kind of curious because it's one of those things where, when I was talking to him, I said, well, maybe, if they said like that person's diction isn't amazing, right? And I'm like, well, maybe it's the opportunity to tell that person to speak slower and more clearly. Like the audience can't tell him or her that, but like maybe the technology does. And they just shouldn't feel bad about it, but they need to speak more slowly or more clearly if they want the captions to be on, because we need to be able to trust the captions.
This is a great opportunity to highlight the presenter coach feature that's available in both PowerPoint and Microsoft Teams.
Yes, seriously.
You can turn it on and review the results privately, so you don't have to feel bad about yourself. And you shouldn't, because public speaking doesn't come naturally to everybody. I had to do it professionally for 4 years before I could do it with any level of confidence. But yeah, no, if anybody is thinking to themselves that they can opt out of accessibility because the technology is, 90% of the way there and not 100% of the way there, they are woefully misguided. Because this, first of all, this should be a default on feature, because this is not about just giving me something to like read along to. This is about giving people who can't hear some understanding of what is happening in this video. And it's crazy to me that we're letting people just opt into it. I know this is a cost-saving feature, but the idea to come back to your scenario, that leadership would opt out of an accessibility feature because of optics, because it wasn't, polished and perfect, is nuts to me. And I disagree with it. And if it's that much of a concern, they can apply resources to it.
Yeah, and the thing too is, if you come to this video and you want to use captions and you're a viewer, just to reiterate, you can't be the one doing the generating of the captions for yourself. It has to be the owner or editor of the video that enables the caption, generates it. Then you have to wait for that to do the work, which I was doing it for some trainings recently. It can take a while, like a half hour for an hour long video. And then it's available to turn on from the viewer side. So even as a viewer, it's not like you have the ability to say, oh, well, I want to be the one that generates it. It's a Wikipedia type of thing. Nope. It's the owner that decides. And if they don't take the action to do it, it's not going to have that feature.
Yeah. There's been this interesting kind of, without getting into the politics of it, there's been this whole railing around like accessibility, inclusivity, and how this is slowing down business and blah, blah, blah. It couldn't be farther from this is about being polite, considerate, So I get so worked up and frustrated when I hear people, like, oh, we should turn off like, the alt text and images because they're bad or inaccurate. And I was like, it's better than nothing, first of all. Yeah. And second of all, you should care about it more, and better than nothing should not be the thing that comes out of the gate.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I'm stepping off my soapbox now.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think those are two good topics for us to talk about today. And looking forward to the next episode, where we'll have a special guest discussing some cool projects out there for August. And I think that probably does it for us this week. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Please leave a comment below to start that discussion. And Sean, thanks for joining me this week, and can't wait to hang out with you and everyone again watching next week.